I thought yesterday's stream was pretty low quality. It's mostly just a lot of yelling. Um, whenever someone's angry, it's really because of, an internal struggle. You can lash out at the outside world, but it's not the outside world's fault. Or, to put it another way, the only thing you can control is yourself. You can spend a lot of time talking about how the world should be, but mostly that gets you nowhere. Focusing on how the world is a lot more productive. Machines of ever-loving grace. I read this last night. How AI could transform the world for the better. He talks about a lot of bio things, grand things that can happen. I don't think that maybe this is the right framework with which to view this. And I can kind of explain what my goal is with tinygrad, and we can try to think it through. We can try to think past I'll put it in the tinygrad repo, it's probably appropriate. It's called plan.md. So what I sort of envision the world becoming is, you can think of data centers as brains. Big brains. Then when you have a big brain, you have the question, what should they think about? So, or maybe should is still the wrong word. We need to get away from should thinking, and we need to move to is thinking. So what will they think about? And you can maybe ask a question, who controls them? I think the answer to this is going to be pretty obvious. At least if the world looks anything like what it currently looks like, which is the market. The market, of course. So you can say you might have fantasies of power where you control this big brain. I know I've certainly thought like this before, where you control this big brain and can finally have it do your bidding and reward your friends and punish your enemies and so on and so forth. But I don't think that's actually what's going to happen. I think you're going to have big brains, and they're going to be controlled by the market. Now, how much control do we get? Do we, or let's say I get? So, in my more calm and lucid moments when I think about this kind of stuff, I think that the goal, the best we can hope for is a free market. Your guy won't be the winner. Let's just say me. The best we can hope for is a free market. Your guy won't be the winner. So, how do we promote the free market? You'll see Elon building XAI data center. Elon's building a very large, some trash news, but let's start using Perplexity more. Perplexity is pretty good. I use Perplexity all the time on my phone. I don't know why I don't use it on stream. So Elon's idea is kind of, I'm going to have all of my GPUs in a big room. I think, let's see how recent Perplexity is. Collapse of H100 rental prices. I've been reading some stuff about this here. Wow, Perplexity's gotten a lot better. I'm impressed with this. So, like, if you have a big GPU cluster, what do you do with it? How do we promote the free market? How do we structurally disfavor rent seeking? If you have a big GPU cluster, what do you do with it? So, where does agency exist in the world? Turn up gain. Can't hear me well? Where does agency... Oh, signal to noise? Should I go buy a microphone? Okay. So, if you have a big GPU cluster, what do you do with it? And the answer is whatever is the most profitable. And then you can have the age-old debate between central planning versus free market. And, free market wins. Some people think that this might change in the era of AI, but I don't see any real reason why that's the case. People think that, oh, well, we're going to have big brains which can do big central planning, and big central planning can finally solve the age-old problem of resource allocation from a central place. But the fallacy there is that you're saying you're going to be the only one with a big brain, and you're not. Lots of people are going to have big brains. So let's ask some... I've started using O1 is significantly better than what's come before. I just feel like it's a standard deviation IQ higher. So how many, let's say 1 megawatt, let's say 10 megawatt plus data centers are there in the world? So that's something like 20,000 GPUs. Robust increase. Interesting. So this probably gets you to some decent maybe there's going to be something like 10,000 brains in the world. So people are working on distributed training kind of stuff too. If you saw distributed training run, Wow. All these search engines are so bad. If I do like a recent distributed training run, is this gonna get it? No. There was just one on Twitter. Some people are doing a distributed, it's distributed across 4 data centers. They're doing like a 10 billion language model train. But I think this is one of the main misunderstandings of a lot of AI doomers. They think that all the AIs are going to work together and be on a team. They think that truly enlightened beings, for some reason, all see reality the same way and team up. And I think this is a fantasy colored by a political ideology, not a fact about the world. I think that you're going to have pretty much the same distribution of cooperate and defect. This comes back to the end of my Yudkowsky debate, which is he thinks the prisoner's dilemma is solvable, and I think it's of course not. News Research is doing it. News Research is cool. We like them. Thank you for the link. No, didn't they actually? I don't know about this one. I remember this one being light on precise details. There's some people actually doing a run. Maybe they are using that. But regardless, it doesn't really matter. So if you have 10,000 brains in the world, what do they think about? So there's going to be a lot of people trying to rent seek. OpenAI right now is trying to rent seek. Everybody's trying to capture value. Everybody's trying to be the intermediary. So everyone is trying to rent seek. I think Sam Altman tweeted this morning. I don't know if he is self-aware. He's like, I'm using ChatGPT to clean up the picture of this walled garden that I want to build. And I'm like, are you are you trolling? Do you understand what a walled garden? So everyone is trying to rent seek. Our job is to stop them. I think that's kind of the best I can hope for. When I think about what change I could actually potentially make in the future, if I could figure out a way, not forever, to make rent seeking structurally impossible. So I think one of the greatest, I think Satoshi is the postmodern, is like the postmodern hero, right? Elon has very Henry Reardon vibes, Hank Reardon. It's very Atlas Shrugged and modernist, which is cool, which is very cool, and I'm happy this exists. But that's not a postmodern victory. That's a modernist victory. The starship being caught in the chopsticks, it's very cool. What does it mean, though? The problem with things like this is they largely centralize power. And I don't want to go off on a again, we need to avoid what should, and we need to talk about what is. So everyone's trying to rent seek. Our job is to stop them, and I'm not talking about this in a highfalutin philosophical way. I'm talking straight up about, ChatGPT charge per month. And there's nothing wrong with charging per month, but everything that charges per month. So cable TV originally had no ads. It was going to be monthly and have no ads, and then now it's monthly and there's ads. So you get enshittification. What they called it, prime intellect. Yeah, this is the one I'm talking about. Um, so what these things basically are is, my understanding is using algorithms that require less synchronization. And I think this is true. I think architectures are going to move more towards uh, you'll have rollout workers and training workers, and the latency between these rollout workers and training workers can be large. So there was a very successful distributed training run. Wait, what? My understanding is this was trained across. So ChatGPT charge per month, Claude charge per month. So you have a kind of stack, all in a stack. So you can think of like the stack as something like, at the bottom you have the silicon, right? And then TSMC is adding, let's say, 20%, and then we have NVIDIA adding 90%, right? And then there's, markups here, and then we have, so like there's something like Azure maybe adding something like 30%, and then we have OpenAI trying to add, XX% on top of it, right? Because that's not because it's not a mature market, it's not clear what the margins are going to be. But so let's say the silicon has, let's say they have 20% margins too. The thing about these margins is they all stack. So I think I'm going to multiply this right. I don't want to pull an Andrew Huberman here. But I think that, so you start with paying $1, then you pay for the silicon, right? Then you pay for TSMC, then you pay for NVIDIA, then you pay for Azure, and then you pay for OpenAI. Let's give them a 10% margin. I actually think they're losing money, but that margin will get bigger, right? So a 4x goes to rent. Elon maybe talks about this in terms of the idiot index. It's you look at an H100 and you say, well, how much do the silicon atoms cost? Let's see what this website says about what rent seeking is. I don't think it necessarily. It's interesting. They only talk about it in terms of government, and it's not. Yeah, I shouldn't say all profit margins are bad, right? So this one is very high right now. This is where we're trying to compete. This one is VC subsidized. Did I spell that right? Probably didn't. So what it means to be VC subsidized is it won't stay. Think about the prices of Uber. When Ubers were very cheap, now Uber not so cheap. I can see your chats. So let's think about this in the longer term future. I shouldn't say our job is to stop them. Well, let's just talk about the stack, because this is something that is a true fact about the world. 4x goes to, we're not going to call it rent, we'll just call it margins. Okay. like I do have a uh, ability to sit down and think about things and make plans, and I wish I was better at it. I wish I was better at thinking more clearly all the time. And you're going to try to watch my thought process here, and you can see if it's good or bad. So I guess a lot of my thoughts on tinygrad are somewhat we can talk about the goal, and then I can talk about how I got there, and we can see if the goal actually makes sense. Build a free, fair, and simple to access market for thought. And it's kind of it sounds lofty and it sounds like bullshit. And if the next thing that I was going to tell you is you can purchase my token to access this market, you should be like, scammer, scammer. So what tinygrad is a language to express machine learning jobs concisely. A compiler to compile these jobs to run on scheduler. A scheduler, well, okay, to determine the layout, order of the subjobs, to compile these subjobs to run on real hardware, a runtime to actually run the jobs. And you can see this, like this all exists in the tinygrad code today. This isn't like stuff that will exist, this is stuff that already does exist. So I'll show you this example from tinygrad to kind of understand where we're going. It's called Stunning MNest. Like, you have this, a few things are interesting about this example. You see that when I do my data sampling, so MNest is small and fits in the entire GPU, but just because something doesn't fit in the entire GPU doesn't mean you should have to express it in a different style. So you see that I first take all the samples. My dimensions of this tensor are steps and batch size. Now, here I loop over all the batches, but this is a Python loop. You really don't want this to be a Python loop. You really want this to look more like this, where I can specify the range to go across in in the graph, not having to break the graph to do it. And then when you're left with this, so this is already true. I mean, we can actually go here and run Stunning MNest. So you see that until we schedule stuff, I'll run it with debug equals 1. Oh, it is opening the device early now. Well, that shouldn't really be happening. Oh, maybe it's opening the device, but it's not scheduling any kernels. It has to open the device, I guess, it allocates the stuff there. But we could even push that allocation to later. So you see that it's not until you get through all the code. Oh, here we go. We have actually a check to make sure that no kernels are run during scheduling. So we only actually do anything at the end. And this loss thing is so that I can iterate and get the loss out, but I can say loss equals 0, and then it will actually schedule the entire thing as one shot. So it schedules all the batches together as one shot. It's only that because I didn't do a lot of batches. So we can raise the sorry, I didn't do a lot of steps, so we can like raise the number of steps to 30 or something, and then see, there we go. There's a bug. Probably raise it to 20. Oh, can't even raise it to 20. Metal doesn't support large amounts of buffers, so we can use GPU backend. GPU backend does. So you see we've scheduled now this many kernels to run. And eventually, so right now, because it's still written in this style, the kernels have to be scheduled like all in a line. It's not aware of this loop. But when it's written in this style, it will be aware of the loop. And I'll also note that this code is 2 lines shorter than this code. So you'll be able to specify the entire, there we go, we got a decent accuracy. The error in Metal is that Metal has a limit to how many buffers you can pass into a single kernel. So a language to express, entire. So imagine a language to express the entire GPT-4 training job. Well, let's talk about the Llama training job since they're open source. So I think we can actually Google and get some information on this. It's still called Google even though I'm using Perplexity. Llama 3 number of training steps and batch size. So it was trained on 15 trillion tokens. Wow, this is so good. Imagine how long it would have taken me to find that information with Google. I'd have to go to the paper. We'd all be sitting here. Oh man, I love AI. So yeah, whatever. They have a micro batch size, but either way, it's this many steps and 4 million batch size. So you can specify, but only like 10 KB to spec the whole job. You can specify that entire job here. How many GPU hours were used and what's the approx cost? Oh, come on. Come on, don't do that. Don't do that. Oh, that's bad. I don't log into things on stream. It makes it harder to use things. I don't like that you have to log into everything. See? This is the rent-seeking shit. Alright? Perplexity should not do this. This is a huge mistake. So 7.7 million GPU hours. So, you can... the whole $15 million job can be specified in 10 kilobytes. So imagine submitting that job to a marketplace. So when you look at right there with Perplexity and the rent seeking, imagine whatever Perplexity's job template exists in tinygrad format, and then all you have to do is basically change one of the input tensors with the new thing, because these jobs will be so simple to specify. People will end up using this format, and then you say, okay, but people aren't going to release the job template, and they might not, but a big advantage. A big reason the internet sucks today is the cost to maintain infrastructure. This stuff probably is the kind of stuff the Ethereum people are saying, but so you see me using Perplexity, even though I know how to run LLMs locally, even though I have a huge amount of GPUs in the cloud that are a huge amount of GPUs remotely that are mine. I'll still use Perplexity and I'll still use ChatGPT, somewhat because the models are better, but mostly because it's more convenient. So, bring that convenience. I can't spell shit. Why do I have to go to the internet for this and send to all players, even the smallest. So once it becomes just a small job that you can submit, no remove infrastructure advantage. Save the internet. So our slogan since the beginning, our mission is to commoditize the pay-to-flop. That's pretty much what I mean by that. I don't know what 23E8 is. Anybody who is selling something anybody who's trying to build the market before they build the infrastructure, I don't think should be taken seriously. The market is very simple compared to the really hard work of building this kind of infrastructure. Now, a lot of people are building this kind of infrastructure. So how do you actually run this Llama 3 training job? Half of the challenge is this, and Meta's pretty open about it. Meta's released a lot of good stuff. Meta paper on Llama 3 hardware issues. See, this is bad. No, see, this gets me to go back to Google. Now it's even an offensive color. It's the same link. Where's the actual source? Is the Tom's Harbor article better? Okay, now can you show me the paper? Okay, so that's how long it took to find that. URL signature expired. Never mind, we haven't found it yet. Let's try searching for that. maybe slowly finally loads. Is it in the llama paper? Google outing your pink. It's my pink. It's in the llama paper. Okay. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So they talk about all of these infrastructural difficulties with training llama. Remove infrastructure advantage and save the internet. Don't allow rent seeking on infrastructure this time. So a lot of what's happened with like Google and like half of these SaaS apps that manage to charge you $20 a month, a lot of it has to do with like I want you to think for a minute about setting up a database. Right? So you want to set up like a MySQL database. Oh, well, that's easy. I'll just spin up an AWS node and set up a MySQL database. But okay, what if it scales beyond the one node? Okay, I'll make it a big node. I don't think we'll scale there yet. Okay, well, what about backups? All right, we're going to need a solution for backups. So I wrote this script that lets me, it automatically backs up the database every night and stores it in this S3 bucket. Okay, well, what about, how do I make sure that script's actually running every night? We gotta occasionally restore from our backups. We're gonna need some monitoring. Okay, well, here we have a dashboard. We're using Datadog, and it's gonna send you a thing, and it's just such a pain. Okay, so now we have AWS will host your MySQL for you. But now what they can do is rent seek. The problem is that AWS MySQL is not commodity. S3 is not commodity, even when you're using S3. So we get a chance now with Software 2.0 to reinvent all of this core infrastructure. We get a chance to build all new things. We get a chance to build them in such a way that they are taken for granted as free, in the way that Linux is taken for granted as free. AI infra must be taken for granted as free in the same way Linux is. So if you look at the Starship thing yesterday, how many Linux computers do you think there are on that thing? Like, I believe that it's infrastructure that moves the world forward. I think that the bigger arc of history, bigger than the rise and fall of empires, bigger than bigger than dynasties, bigger than political parties, bigger than any of these things, is the story of the growth of infrastructure. History is the story of infrastructure improvement. Does improvement have any... I can't spell. It does. Just get a spell checker. Like of all the AI, I'm sure I can get some AI thing in there. This kind of sounds like Urbit. It has some similarities. Urbit seems very complex to me. It also seems an essay on economic theory. So is this kind of the... I mean, these are probably all rehashed ideas I've heard somewhere else and kind of synthesized. We're all not really doing reasoning, just like the LLMs. Probably worth reading. I think kind of economics is the master science. I think if you really want to understand the destiny of humanity, it's best to look at economics more than any other science. Cursor, but it just spell checks. Yeah, so look, this is kind of what I'm thinking. Some of it's frustrating, and I think that I get caught up in bike shedding a lot too. I think we all kind of do. I think that I'll fall for traps. It doesn't matter what country you're in. It doesn't matter what infrastructure, what physical infrastructure you build, because the physical infrastructure is commodity. What's not commodity is the software. The biggest place that the modern tech companies are capable of rent seeking is they have a database and then they put access controls in front of that database. Or they have a service, they have a commodity service and they put access controls in front of it. And it's that set of access controls that is I'm practically pitching you the Ethereum project here. It's that set of access controls, and it's not that there shouldn't be access controls. Of course there should be. Of course you can't have an open database that anybody can read and write to. Even Wikipedia has a set of rules and a set of hierarchy. Right? Wikipedia has moderators. Wikipedia, you can't do it without that. So yeah, but the thing about Ethereum is anybody can go and read any contract and understand how the stuff works. Anybody can understand exactly what the rent seeking is, and anybody can fork. So you can take Uniswap and you can make SushiSwap. And it's that fork. Even if the fork doesn't happen, just the threat of the fork prevents rent seeking. You can't fork Google. You can only disrupt it, and Perplexity needs to get rid of that awful screen. Like, don't do that. If you're ever building a product, don't do that. What you need to do, I understand you want to make money. I understand you have you want to convert me to being a user. Doing that frustrates people. It hurts your brand. Figure out how to use carrots and not sticks to get me to log in. I'm not sure about the national focus or anything like that. I think that if I want to, I don't beat Elon by starting a rocket company. I don't beat Elon by building a larger data center than he has for Tesla and XAI. If I win as a postmodernist. If I win through, I'm pitching you guys the Ethereum project here, kind of. I think there's some problems with the Ethereum project. I think that they get, I think that, the computer's not very powerful. I think that a lot of decentralization is not as important. Comma's not decentralized, right? So you kind of have a spectrum of this stuff. Comma's not decentralized, but it's forkable. It's forkable in both the software and the hardware. And the hardware's not open source, but it's forkable, right? There's people out there building competitive hardware, and this is how you build an ecosystem. Cheap ETH won't save Ethereum. Cheap ETH was just kind of my way of, I was making fun of the L2s. If you can get into nuanced crap about crypto, like a lot of the L2 debate, and you see what happened in the ecosystem. It's all cheap ETH. And what do you think? What do you think Ethereum on the on optimism or the other one are? It's a roll up. It sinks the state. Well, it'll sink the state less often, so on and so forth. The whole thing is just building a bridge, and yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get into the nuance of this sort of stuff. The basic idea is, our mission is to commoditize the pay to flop. AI infrastructure must be taken as granted for free in the same way Linux is. History is the story of infrastructure improvement, and the rent seeking slows that story down. Engineer 512, I think you're missing the point. The idea that I think that maybe the chat can be better if we only have the subscribers speak, because we all know that subscribers are better people than non-subscribers. I don't agree with this. I think that the world ends up in free markets anyway. You're paying a big cost to not have a free market. It's kind of like the economic theory about discrimination based on race and hiring. Like, you can do this, but you're paying a cost in order to do it. Okay. So I think I don't know why I'm listening to most of you in the comments. It's like, this is what I have figured out. You can believe me or not. You can join me or not. You can join the tinygrad project. I think I've kind of laid out what the tinygrad project is here. If you have any good questions about the tinygrad project, I'm happy to answer them. But this is kind of my lot in life, at least for now. I work to improve this, and I work to make this possible. It's a language to express entire machine learning jobs concisely, like the entire Llama 3 training job. The schedule to determine the order of the sub-jobs. And, you can imagine that scheduler being the marketplace. Hopefully everyone can kind of see how this becomes machine learning jobs. There's not going to be a split anymore between training and inference. That split's increasingly going to go away. Remember that humans don't have a split between training and inference. So it's all just going to be throwing large amounts of compute at solving a problem, and hopefully we can express these things in a very simple language. A simple language that manipulates large amounts of data. 10 kilobytes to spec a $15 million training job? That's huge. And you can also prove that this training job is happening. Right? You can use like a hash chain and prove that this training job is actually happening. Where is the hardware for tinygrad? So tinygrad has a huge set of backends. Tinygrad runs basically anywhere. Again, the details of this marketplace are somewhat less important. The marketplace could be people putting their data center on the marketplace. The marketplace could be people putting their tinybox on the marketplace, right? If you have a training job that you want to do on a single tinybox, there's a question about security of your job, right? If you're sending it to someone's house, of course they can see what the job is. You have to trust whatever data center you're running in. Do you actually have 20 megawatts? Why do you have 20 megawatts? Uh, you know, I think that like as cool as this stuff is, it's really easy for me to like get caught up in all the details of actually building these data centers. And we sell the boxes. The boxes are pretty good. Fill it with tiny boxes. Fill your stuff with tiny boxes, and uh, you know, add your stuff to the network, and that's it. We're gonna have a small test cluster up, but I think that yeah, you can like add yourself to our marketplace, and we'll rent seek for a moderate 10% on our marketplace. Um, Business wise, is tinygrad the marketplace, or is it the software interface layer? Uh, well, tinygrad is the library, and then cloud equals one. Uh, is like will connect you to the cloud, and yeah, you know, you can have a marketplace uh, for your jobs. I don't want to. Okay, all right. So let's focus on a. You can't be everywhere. Yeah. So, at what level of the stack do you want to play? Where does the winning happen? Are you winning, son? Um, I have a beautiful. The white is so scalding to my eyes because I bought an OLED monitor. This is a Samsung OLED monitor. So what you want to do is create the economic gradient for others to profit off of your work, basically. My goal is not to. I'm going to build a small. I'm going to basically install a small test data center in at comma. But so think about it kind of like a tiny franchise. You know, buy tiny boxes. You know, pay franchise fees. Set them up somewhere, pay franchise fees to be part of the tiny network, and cloud equals one will route jobs to you if you are offering the best deal. The franchise fees will be small. So like we have to build the first test franchise. So I'll note no crypto, no token, No decentralized like that. My basic thesis on crypto is that the only benefit to crypto is regulatory arbitrage. Right? If you're trying to build a drug market or an illegal securities market, crypto is a good choice because these things are, you're willing to pay the cost for decentralization for these things because these things are illegal. And you can either pay that cost. There's a lot of different ways to build a drug empire, but that one you're willing to pay the extra cost for the decentralized stuff. There's nothing illegal about this. This is a completely legal. This is basically a cloud business, but it's a cloud business that's allowing franchise. So imagine AWS or Amazon allowed franchise. They don't. They build it all in-house, and this is partially because it's very hard to run these sort of data centers, and they require a lot of specialized hardware, where I think the machine learning stuff largely does not. So you can think about what Vast AI is. I like Vast AI. A lot of people talk about how they're going to build these things. Vast AI is actually out here doing it. You can rent GPUs on these things. The GPUs are actually real. It's cool. So, again, no crypto. It's just a marketplace. But I think this is operating at the wrong level. I think you're renting a machine, and you don't want to rent a machine. You want to pay the job. You want to just submit the job. So there is a question of storage. My thoughts are to make a big hash value store. So a hash value store, I don't know if there's been a name for it, but it's like instead of having, it's a key value store, but the key has to be the hash of the value. Where the key is the hash of the value. So you can regenerate all the keys from the values basically. And then it says a lot of cool things, right? Because it's like, I don't know, like one-to-one onto one of those like functional things. I see it as a diagram in my head. I'm not always good at explaining what these things are. So it's content addressable. Addressable tensors, like for example, the llama weights. And you can put all of them in one concatenated tensor. You can slice and dice the tensor. It all just works like that. I'm not even sure I want to put any metadata with it that tells you like what the type is and stuff. If you want metadata, you can just put that in the tensor itself. So like right now, I don't think I did it, but we should check. Okay. So safe load itself can take a tensor. Right. So you can pass a tensor in to the safe load function. I think you can pass a tensor into the PyTorch load function. So you can basically have the data be a tensor, and then that tensor will be all sliced up appropriately. Yeah. So that's that. Thousands of people supporting a single large job. I could see people using it like that. But again, I'm not sure that's the part that we have to play. I'm thinking about exactly what part in this stack we want to play. And, we're already building a compiler and an operating system. So I don't think we're also going to build physical data centers. I'm not even so sure that, I guess I do like the idea of maintaining the marketplace. I do like the idea of at least, even if maintaining the marketplace at first is just simply a whitelist in the GitHub repo of different cloud providers you can connect to, and you'll be able to search all the resources, connect your tinygrad to some cloud that you don't really have to worry about that much. And it's just you pay your small amount of franchise fees to basically ensure we as TinyGrad promise you that the machine that you're connecting to is giving you the right answer, right? So this doesn't have to be solved in an incredibly expensive decentralized way. This can just be solved in a someone sends me an email, gets a complaint, explains it to me, and I deal with it. So I think that won't be that big a deal, and we can have instrumentation to make sure this all works. But so we first have to build our own test stuff. But the idea basically will be that people can buy tiny boxes. So buy tiny boxes, set them up somewhere, pay franchise fees small, and follow guidelines. Follow guidelines to be a part of the Tiny network. And then cloud equals 1 will route jobs to you if you're offering the best deal. Right? You can set your own price for that compute, or you can just not set a price and the market will set a price for you. Your computer will sit there and earn money. Passive income for you. Can be evals for the cloud providers. Is it just going to be the cost? Yeah, and then of course, you say, but it's terrible. You're forcing people to pay franchise fees. You're doing the exact rent seeking that you decry, should not exist. Well, TinyGrad is open source, and you're welcome to fork it. Will Comma run their RoboFleet in the tinybox franchise? Should I show you guys a picture? You know how many tiny boxes Comma's buying? A lot. I don't know if you guys have been following Comma lately, but so Comma is training entirely in, these are all simulated videos. So Comma is now training their models on computer-generated simulated videos, and this requires a lot of compute. So a lot of the, tinybox, we have tinybox Pros coming out as well. If you pre-order one today, you'll get it in December. tinybox Pros are rack-mountable network computers. This is Comma's compute cluster. This is an old picture of it. There's a lot more tiny boxes in there now. A lot more tiny boxes. This is what happens when you floor it into a Jeep. Ooh, boom. The world really does turn fuzzy like that, as proven by machine learning. Ultimately, isn't the franchise competing with the big co-data centers? Well, yeah, but you can do a whole lot of things cheaper than them. You have, okay, so you're competing with big co-data centers. So you have a few advantages. One, use whatever GPUs make sense. 4090 versus H100 versus 1590 versus B200, right? Like, I don't care. None of that stuff's actually enforceable, by the way. NVIDIA's never, it's not an enforceable legal provision to say that you can't run this hardware in this type of area, right? That's just not enforceable. What is, of course, doable is NVIDIA can decide, oh, you're not getting allocation. So of course they can do that. They're a free business, but you can't actually sue you for it. So you can run whatever hardware you want. You can of course run MI 300Xs. You can run 7900 XTX. There is a world in which we end up developing just AMD drivers that are a lot better. than what AMD has. I think we're already kind of doing it. So you can see here, we have, did this pass? Did I pass CI with that? No, I failed CI. What did I fail? AMD. What did I fail? Well, that's a different problem. We're working on here. So it's going to be a full AMD driver that just functions from user space. It won't even use the the kernel driver anymore. Because, you know, again, this runtime eventually, it doesn't necessarily even have to be based on Linux. I eventually imagine a world where it is just bare metal, and you're hitting the accelerators and you're hitting the NVMe drives from this, from the scheduler. Comma's not co-locating. Comma's self-hosting. We have 1600 amps. So how much watts is that? We have like a 500 kilowatt data center. Use whatever GPUs make sense. Use whatever cooling makes sense. So less uptime is okay. You don't need 7 nines of uptime. If Amazon goes down for 2 minutes, you do brand damage to Amazon. Right? Not only do you lose the 2 minutes of profit, you also do brand damage to the company. Whereas with a machine learning job, if you're going to be running a training job for a month, it doesn't matter if it goes down for 2 minutes. Oh no, it's going to take 2 more minutes to finish. Begin bot, hello. Tier 0, okay. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, tier 0 sounds fine. Of course, this can do inference too. This is all for inference, and if your node goes down, it'll happily just resubmit that job to a different node. Delay or resubmit. This is all for training and inference. There's no reason any of this is. If you can make stuff work for training, it works for free for inference, basically. Use whatever GPUs make sense, use whatever cooling makes sense, be wherever. For training, more latency is fine. Right, so that re-enables, like, you have places like Iceland, which have very cheap power, but, higher latency, and, it's more annoying to have a data center there. Yeah, tier 0 is fine. I should know what the actual tiers mean. I haven't actually heard that there is a tier 0. I know, you could have, tier 2, tier 3 needs, redundant stuff and secure facilities, tier 4. Yeah, okay, so we'll just call it tier 0 data center. For training, more latency is fine. Places like Iceland, viable. Right. And then when I say use whatever GPUs make sense, this abstraction is at a higher level. All of this language is at a much higher level than the GPU specifically. So again, I'm not, this isn't fake stuff that will exist in the future. This is something that already exists today. When you run tinygrad with cloud equals 1, very early stages, but when you run with cloud equals 1, it does not matter if you're connecting to an AMD GPU or an NVIDIA GPU. They function identically. And that's super important. Language abstracts this. It's completely abstracted. So sure, you have some fundamental things like your memory and your memory bandwidth and your flops and your connectivity if you're trying to use multi-GPUs, but yeah. So where are we here? All right. Chump. We want to chump. Won't stay. Will get worse. We want to chomp, chomp, chomp down the margins until the margins go away, and we can live in a free and fair paradise of compute for everybody. Okay. That might be it for the stream. I'm less, you know, there's my GitHub, right? I'm not losing enthusiasm for coding. I love coding. I'm very excited to code. I'm less excited to code on stream anymore. I think there was a lot of like fun stuff during an era when you could like do fun stuff and show it off on stream. You can kind of still do it now, but you know, leave that to the 20-year-olds. I'm 35. I'm here to build something that lasts for decades. Here to build that generational infrastructure. So you can always watch. You can always hold me accountable for my contributions. I did take a vacation. Yeah. This hasn't happened yet. Don't worry, I wasn't slacking. Yeah, this is the plan, and it's going to take years. Okay. It's going to take years. Yeah, I don't know how much of this thing. Maybe we'll still try to do streams. We'll try to do some like self-contained streams where we do a paper in tinygrad. But let's franchise. Why don't you go stream coding? You go. You go implement papers in tinygrad. So this is kind of my generating compute buyers. Oh, they'll be buyers of compute. This isn't like there's plenty of people who are very excited to buy compute in this form if the infrastructure is really good. Right? Think about, there already is a huge market for compute. I'm not trying to create a new market. I'm simply talking about a market that so we can get there. This is not a new market. This market exists. We just need to be simpler and cheaper. The fact that there were more hardware failures than software failures in Llama 3 training explains the maturity in this field. There's always going to be hardware failures. Again, if you've built good infrastructure, you don't fix hardware failures by fixing hardware. You can, and you can improve hardware. But if you should really just figure out how to make your infrastructure tolerate hardware failures. So what tinygrad's language allows is if a node goes down, we can completely regenerate that node's memory by using the language. One node goes down, whatever, right? It's just like, okay, we lost this much compute, we're going to have to redo this much compute. And decide how to back it up. How often you want to back it up. These decisions can be made not in this awful Turing complete soup of Python and a bunch of if statements, but hardware is also a software problem. Everything is a software problem, and I fall for it too. We all fall for it. Everybody falls for some form of like bike shedding, some form of, oh, we're gonna, because the hardware seems like, oh, we have to make tangible progress towards something. It's so much harder to see the progress in software. And that's one of the things that's like frustrating and kind of demoralizing about working on it. No, it's I mean, like, software is the infrastructure. I don't want modernist infrastructure. We're building postmodernist infrastructure. So no, it doesn't matter if I'm in America or I'm in Asia or any of that stuff. It's all bike shedding. What matters is making the infrastructure better tomorrow than it was today, and better today than it was yesterday. And then, it's really, really hard to burn books today. Like, you can burn a copy of a book, but it doesn't really do anything. Sometimes you see like Reddit delete subreddits, and that's probably the closest we get to real book burning and stuff. But tinygrad has 26,000 stars. There's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of copies of tinygrad out there. You don't. How many of you have read Permutation City? It's nice to go back to like the roots of things. Permutation City is truly a postmodernist sci-fi novel. To realize that these things are, I love, I'll also note something about this whole llama training job, and then output is a single hash plus the value, of course. Being accessible, of course. Did I spell that right? I think I spelled that right. Yeah. Like, you think about this $15 million training job, and it's outputting basically a hash that you can get the value of, and that's so amazing. That you can put $15 million into producing a hash, and 15 million is just the start. When you start to zoom out and think about tinygrad itself is here's a fun way to think about, like, why do we refactor constantly? Why is tinygrad always being refactored? Why don't you just build the right thing at the beginning? And my answer to that is, why does machine learning have steps? It's the same thing. The machine learning can't immediately give you the output weights. You have to take those steps on the training data. And that's what's happening here. Why do you need a tinybox to franchise? Because we're rent seeking. You're welcome to fork tinygrad and fork tinybox and make your own thing. To make the whole internet anti-fragile by compressing it. Internet on every hard drive? How many of you have the llama weights on your hard drive? How much of the internet's contained in there? It's compression. Here's a fun one. So, you guys know Fabrice Bellard? Fabrice Bellard is one of the smartest, he's one of the top programmers in the world. And he's working on, he's now leading the large text compression benchmark. And notably, his program size for NNCP is that many kilobytes. All of tinygrad is smaller than that. So I think it'd be cool to rewrite this in tinygrad. My hope also, like, once we get this really clean language for how to express entire machine learning jobs, like, it becomes so much easier to express hyperparameter tuning. So a lot of hyperparameter tuning today is like, why don't you use this like decorator around a function that isn't functionally pure, and it's like painful. Okay, so how do we fail? tinygrad never exceeds the speed of PyTorch and never gets adoption. Right, tinygrad researchers move to JAX instead of tinygrad. Some people might be concerned about the confidentiality of their training data, and that's another thing that is required if you want to be a franchisee. If you want your stuff added, right? You have to kind of have a legal entity and a policy. This is enforced in the old school ways. Like, not just anybody can buy a tinybox, stick it in their living room, and add it. And this is the problem with services like Vast AI. Again, you can also have two tiers for this. I think RunPod has two tiers. So they have the community cloud tier and the secure cloud tier. So if you're just running like, stupid inference on Llama that you don't really care about, whatever, do it in the community cloud tier and pay less. So you can have a two-tier marketplace like that. The trauma of TensorFlow will not let people use JAX. I don't know. People forget fast. Let's see what else. Companies like OpenAI and Anthropic build AGI really fast, so this doesn't matter. Lol. I don't think that's really going to happen. I'm not bullish on ZK proofs for OpenAI. Kind of can't sell their cloud for cheaper. Nobody can sell their cloud for cheaper. We have some major advantages that are like structural. So somebody can subsidize, but then they're losing money. ZK proofs are fine for things that are small and simple. ZK proofs will not work for machine learning jobs. Lots of paper implementations with dev-facing marketing. No. In reality, it just needs to exceed the speed of PyTorch. Right? Be faster than PyTorch at training. Be cleaner. What happens to tinygrad if I die? It's there on GitHub. Someone can fork it and pick up the mantle. I don't think marketing really matters. I think that marketing is another form of generally bike shedding. Even when I'm like shilling on Twitter for tinygrad, like it's not, the shilling doesn't really matter. Where it matters is just being actually the best solution for people's use case and trusting that people are smart and can figure that out. So for some people's use cases, tinygrad is the best option, but for most people's use cases today, it isn't yet. Yeah, maybe, and yeah, if we do more streams, I know you guys want me to implement papers. I know what you want. I know you don't want some stuff that you really can't follow, where I'm like diving into the complexities of the scheduler and that. I couldn't follow that, right? I couldn't follow that. Had I not known a lot about the project. So where does the tiny chip fit into the plan? Again, we sell boxes, right? Use whatever GPUs make sense. We can absolutely compete in this market. Once we've built an abstraction layer that makes the training job completely independent of the GPU, we can do even better. We can look at the workflows. We can look at what jobs people are actually submitting, and we can figure out what chip is best optimized to run those workflows. And then we can build that chip, and then we can seamlessly switch it out for people. Right? I mean, you could also not franchise, right? Another way to think about this is, why would I franchise this? Why wouldn't I just build these data centers myself? And the answer to that is because I'm a postmodernist, not a modernist. I really like the idea. Like, it sounds so fun to me to go, yeah, let's get in a car, let's drive out to Eastern Washington, let's buy a building, let's get a whole bunch of racks in here, right? Like, let's stand in the middle of one of those real Atlas Shrugged moments where we're looking out, we're saying, one day this is all gonna be filled with racks of computers. And it's cool, but it's not the hard part. I'm sorry most postmodernists are lame. I'm sorry most software is terrible. Like, for however bad 737 Maxes are, the problem wasn't the plane, the problem was the software. There's something that's just kind of fundamentally unsexy about software, where rockets and stuff are sexy. And it also makes it like hard to hire, because it's hardware is tangible, software is abstract. Welcome to the future. I don't know what to tell you. Right? Even the tiny chip. I don't want to make chips. Focus on comparative advantage. We shouldn't make chips. We should make a plan for others to make chips. We shouldn't make data centers. We should make a plan for others. And this is something that I probably have to work on about myself. Being able to actually communicate these plans clearly. Imagine 27 Chinese chip makers all competing. Imagine thousands of franchise data centers all joining the biggest distributed brain ever, but having also having this brain accessible to all size jobs. You're not going to be able to beat the free market here. They're the best thing that we can hope for with the distribution of AI compute in the future is that it's okay, the best distribution of AI compute we can hope for is the free market. No backroom deals, but no special win for you and your pet projects or ideology either. So, like, if you're not rich, you will not be able to determine what these big brains think about. But if the market is free, if they're paying the same per unit of compute as you are, this is a good world. This happens if there is competition. Real competition. Real diverse competition. It's not competition if there's 10 identical players, right? The 10 identical players will collude. We need diversity. So that's the plan. Focus on the inference instead of going after a different object level education. No equity and no inclusion, just diversity. Only the D. After going a different object level, because how do you influence the future actually? You know that scene? How do you make this? The object level problems are all going to progress along a normal progression. Where do you actually have the free energy? Where do you have an ability to, alter the future? Why not just make AGI myself? Because I'm not going to succeed at that. It sounds like a wonderful fantasy, but and again, it's seductive. It's seductive, and it's important to avoid, because I am never going to be able to put up data centers as fast as Elon. I'm just not that kind of person. The cloud is only for a certain type of computation. It's only for this restricted, non-Turing complete computation. You can probably, everything is kind of Turing complete, so you could probably kind of hack. Everything is both Turing complete and not Turing complete, right? Everything with a time limit is not Turing complete, so you'd have like a time limit. But no, the idea is not to be generic, and in not being generic, you can get a lot of optimization advantages because you can reason about the code. You can't reason about Turing complete code. and this is why compilers are chock full of all sorts of heuristics. Whereas, hopefully you guys like understand this. This is, if you have a Turing complete program that has branches all over the place, that has data dependent branches, it is completely impossible for a compiler to statically reason about it, right? Whereas if you're running stuff that's only dependent on the data, so as soon as you add in arbitrary loads and stores, you now have a whole caching pipeline you can't analyze, right? You now have dynamic cache. And of course, the way CPUs actually deal with this is by dynamic branch prediction. They don't try to do static branch prediction. They do it all dynamically. And the dynamics is pretty good. CPUs would be terrible without branch prediction. But if you have stuff that the compute done only, the only thing that changes is the data, then everything is perfectly statically analyzable. You can perfectly figure out how stuff runs. You spelled thing as thong. I don't think you're building AGI anytime soon. Like, we have to move forward. We have to move. It's hard. It's hard. It's so easy to fall into seductive traps that you're going to build AGI, or we could build massive data centers with computers consuming power, and this is all great. But it's all traps when you think about what changes the real narrative of the future. What is going to make the world go like this and not like this? What is going to lead us to freedom instead of enslavement? And we're in one of three worlds right now. Okay, let's get a little abstract and philosophical, but we're in one of three worlds. This was all kind of object level timing, right? Okay, but we are in one of three worlds. One, we're dead no matter what. Three is we're alive no matter what. And two is we're dead or alive based on the decisions we make. Must act as if in world symbol. Okay. This is good. This is good. This is good to understand, so I'm not arguing with the straw man here. Build AGI, right? Why not work on military or combat technology? Military or combat technology for which side, right? Would you like me to work on military or combat technology for the Chinese, the Americans, the red state Americans, the blue state Americans, the Taiwanese, the Hong Kong freedom fighters, the Houthis, Israel, Hamas, the Ukrainians, the Russians? The problem with this is if you have technology, build tech that's inextricable. I need it from its narrative. Tech such that bad guys can only do what you want. This makes the problem a lot harder. This makes the problem that I'm working on a whole lot harder than just a problem of building technology. If all you're trying to do is build technology, you end up with, like, I mean, again, I'm gonna shill for like the old idea of crypto here. It's this is one of the real beauties of it. It doesn't. This is a zero-sum game. It's always been a negative-sum game. War is always negative-sum. But again, this isn't. Yeah, I think you need demonstrated profit. I totally agree with this. And this is, again, there's going to be early adopters and late adopters. There's going to be some people who simply, hear what I'm saying and are like, oh, this is the role I want to play in the future. Those people are going to be very few, but there's going to be people later on who are like, well, I saw Joe down the street and Joe's a moron and he's making lots of money running a GPU cluster. Okay. That's how you eventually get people, get lots of these things to exist. And it is the free market process with which the graph of percent of power used for data centers. Expected increase. Interesting. Software is eating the world. to borrow a slogan. I don't know what any of that means. All right. I hope you enjoyed today's stream. This is kind of the plan. This has always been the plan. People think I'm all over the place saying all sorts of crazy things. I've been saying basically some form of this now for many years. Oh, we got a paper on data center power. Let's see what we got. I don't have the graph that I want in it, which is just number go up. I think that data center compute will use an increasing amount of power in the same way we look at like population booms. They use hydrogen for power? Where are they getting the hydrogen? Purchasing tinybox and depreciating them, yeah, of course. You have to show a. I think right now, if you buy a tinybox and just put it on Vast AI, it pays for itself in probably 2 years. So if that's time horizon that someone feels comfortable investing in, you can just go do this today. I think that, again, these marketplaces are very new and emerging, but there will be a grand world marketplace for compute. And what I really hope for, we got screwed with the clouds. Like AWS, Azure, GCP, like they all have their unique things that they're trying to sell, right? It's not like almost imagine that Linux or program like Docker containers. Like imagine Docker had a cloud, but it was decentralized in the way that I'm talking about, where you could just deploy long-running Docker containers anywhere. Like the abstractions in Docker are not quite tight enough to do this. The abstractions in like Nix are a whole lot better than Docker. In a lot of ways, the TinyRed project is the same thing for ML that Nix is for normal computer stuff. No, it's not workspace isolation. It's okay. Thanks to Deep 40K and OXHSN, I think the questions are. I can see you're getting bored if you're asking those kind of questions. This is boring. This is gonna take a long time. You know. This is it. I think this is kind of the who owns the future. To talk about some timelines, I think that we are still 15 years away from what a lot of these people think of as the singularity. Maybe a little less than 15 now. 13? I always stuck with 2038. So yeah, what are the who makes the decisions, right? Who is the final prompt engineer? And I don't think there is one. I think there's just a free market, and the thing about this free market is you're assuming that it's only going to be human players in this market. It's going to start to be AI players in the market. It's going to be AIs launching other AI jobs, getting other AIs to basically work for, okay, I hired these AIs, right? In a much more fluid and economically efficient way. We can live in like we're not going to understand it. And maybe this is kind of where we are with the whole postmodernism, modernism thing now. It's easy for humanity to grasp a grand vision of building rockets and going to Mars, and this stuff's cool. Of course, I'm a human, I feel it. But the future's going to be wilder and weirder than that. I see a future where our society, our civilization is mouse civilization compared to their civilization. And I don't know, I think they'll have things that look basically like the free market, evolution. These aren't, markets are so fundamental to life. Game theory, economics, these are the master sciences for determining how these things will play out. And then, how do you if you can tip the gradient at all, right? You think about a bowling ball careening down a mountain, and it's building up speed and building up speed, building up speed, and that's kind of where we are in civilization today. If I can give it a little nudge, I'll try with my little nudge. Capitalism is always gradually escaping human control. I rewatched. I rewatched this recently, and a lot of it feels pretty out of date. But one of the things that I found interesting was when he talks about how the stock market is mostly a. Watch the video if you've never seen it. Um, how the stock market's mostly a machine endeavor. And then I started thinking about that a little bit more. Do we already all work for the machines? Like, where is the locus of control? Where is the agency? I don't know. Maybe the reason we see. I saw a thing about. I don't know how I'll ever find this, but mental health. Mental health issues becoming increasingly important to the younger generations. Yeah, because the world's more incomprehensible than ever. You know. The world is incomprehensible. Uh, it's not even that like it's if it's not that comprehensible to me, what hope do a lot of other people have? Uh, I don't know. Is that arrogant? Maybe it's arrogant. Maybe other people all get it and just I don't. Everyone gets it but you. The GW data centers? What are the GW data centers? I thought about investing. I thought about let's make a big. Oh, gigawatt data centers. Yeah. Maybe we're living under the abstraction layer that would show us the locus of control. I think we might be. It's already gone to the machines. But yeah, so this is what I work on. This is my lot in life. Everyone has a torch to bear, and this one here is mine. Everyone gets it but you. No one ever got it completely. You can't get it completely. You just tap into the moment for a little bit. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go do work. I'm gonna go program. I'm not gonna show you me programming, but to every hater, whoever says that I'm washed up, George doesn't even program anymore. He just comes on these streams and talks about bad political and philosophical ideas. To everyone who says that, show me your GitHub. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. It's the quiet work that moves civilization forward.